What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Zoomer Perspective.
Episode 4.
Episode 4. I'm Jackson.
And I'm Jacob, as always. I don't change.
And we're Zoomers, and we got a perspective. So
this is true. And today's topic is friendship. I think we're just going to simply title it Friendship. Do you agree with that? Right as he takes a drink?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, friendship. So I just wanted to clarify as we start the different types of like friendship. So we have friendship between the same sex. So for us, it's guy and guy. So like Jackson and I. So it's friendship bros to where we grew up one-on-one and we have that good friendship. And no matter how much time passes, you know, if it's been 3 months and we meet up and we talk, you know, we've had that childhood friendship that we're still good friends. Then you have your friend group, and it's a bunch of friends within that group. I have my college friend group from when I was dating Lexi, and we were part of our college group. And so we had, I had a bunch of guys within that friendship, and there were a few girls in our inner circle as well. But I had that friendship as well. It wasn't a one-on-one friendship. We only like spent time as friends all together. And so it was like that friend group. So that, I think that's another type of friendship, is in a group form. So there's the one-on-one, there's a group form, and then there's couple friends. So like Lexi and I have several couples that we are friends with. And so we'll go to their house and we'll eat dinner or whatever. They'll put their kids to sleep, and then we stay up way too late playing board games and having a lot of fun. And so I think that is another type of friendship, is when you have a significant other and the two of you have friends together and that you can go hang out with. But today, I think we were mainly talking about the one-on-one friendship and then the friend group friendship. Is that kind of...
Yeah, absolutely. Because I'm a pretty strong believer that's probably the most important friends. You know, it's fun. My girlfriend and I, we go out with other couples and stuff, but it's not even close to as important as those closer people, that inner friend group, or like you were talking about, you know, your college friend group. I think that's a lot important, and those kind of people have much more influence on your life. And I end up spending a lot more time with those people compared to
you do now
couples and stuff like that.
When you're married, it'll be different.
All right, okay.
However, I say that is true for me. That may not be true for you. The reason that is true for me is because we moved. And so the only friends we've made here are as couples. So for you,
I would also say too, like I kind of look at my parents, and that's what my parents have. Like, they don't have a lot of people they go out with as a couple. It's more so like, really? I have my friend here and their friend here. So
see, my parents are the opposite.
Yeah, I know I know your parents are the opposite. I remember that.
I think for you, to where you'll probably stay where you and Kaya have grown up, and so you will still have those childhood friends, to where we moved, and so we've made friends together. I think it's important to have friends as a couple, because then you can all do things together. But
I wouldn't ever imply that's not important.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think early on, it is very important to have those friends and choose them wisely. For sure.
Yeah, I know, you're absolutely right, bro.
Okay, so in these shows, we normally have some bullet points we like to hit to keep us on topic. Otherwise, we'll go down rabbit trails. So I'm going to hit us off with our first one. And it is a question to Jackson, and then I will answer. Why is friendship important? Like, what is the importance of friendship?
Yeah. So having a good friend, someone to rely on, is so important. Like, first off, you know, we are social creatures. That's the way God made us. He made us interact with other people and rely on one another. And especially, I think Psalms, you know, explains it really well. You know, iron sharpens iron. And it's important to just have a good friend who's going to encourage you, build you up. You know, you think of like the gym bro as well. Going to the gym is so much fun when you have that gym bro. You're going together, pushing each other, helping each other improve. But just having that in all aspects of life, I mean, the things you can accomplish and get done, it's I mean, it's really good.
Yeah. And I would, kind of like you said, iron sharpens iron. Um, who you choose as friends kind of goes into my next bullet point, which is how friends can influence each other. But I think that's why friends are so important and to choose them wisely is because they really do shape us to be who we are and to build that character.
Yeah, bro, absolutely. So,
and it's important to have somebody to rely on, especially at a younger age, when you don't have a spouse or somebody to rely on, to have like a buddy that can, if you're tough in a tough situation and you just need somebody to hang out with or get your head out of that space, to have that, but to also have somebody, if you get a flat tire and need somebody to come help you, call a friend, if you can, and yeah, I think that's why friends are really important to have.
yeah, so in choosing friends wisely, like what do you think that criteria would be?
So I'm going to go into a kind of personal example for myself, and this kind of hits on how friends can really influence each other. And so I have my friend group from back home, back where we grew up, and love them all to death. I really do. But that friend group was my friend group in high school, and I wasn't the person that I try to be today in high school, as most of us probably were. And so it's really hard with that friend group because I have moved on and like moved, like literally moved, and gotten into a relationship, and got married and live far away. And so don't have the same friendship as I do with them as I did before. I mean, I still have a really good friendship with them, but I strive to not fall into my high school ways and to be that type, to swear and that type of stuff, because in high school, it being around that all the time, it was hard not to fall into that and to be those silly and crazy people. But when I'm with that friend group that I grew up in high school, it's really, really hard not to slip into it. And it's not their fault whatsoever. Because I by no means was a good influence on them. I mean, I was just as wild as they were. I mean, we all had a lot of fun. I mean, we didn't do anything crazy. Don't get me wrong. Don't let your minds wander. And like we weren't.
Yeah, I think you're out there wilding or something.
Yeah, we weren't terrible people by any means, going out and getting drunk or partying or anything like that. It's just we were silly and immature, and so when we all come together and hang out, it's hard not to fall into that and to slip, because for them it's not important to not swear. That's just a way of their life. That's how they've lived. To them it means nothing. To me it means something, and I'm not criticizing them or blaming them for doing that. I try to not do that on a daily basis, and when I'm with them, I slip into it sometimes.
Yeah, dude. And that totally ties back with what I was saying earlier with like iron sharpening iron is now you're holding yourself to a higher standard and you feel yourself like falling back into those ways. And that's something my friend group we've really worked on. We've even had like discussions where we've gotten together and it's just like, hey, we've been joking about this, or we've been doing this thing, like, I don't want to do that anymore. I think we should change what we're doing, fix how we're interacting with each other, or something along those lines. And that's something I've really come to value and appreciate in my friend group, is the fact that we're able to talk about that and have those discussions, because we all acknowledge the fact we want to help improve each other. We want to help each other, become better men and also become more godly men. And it's like, if we see something that's starting to come up, or even if like, say I'm doing something, they'll be like, hey, Jackson, like you should probably not do that, or you shouldn't, you shouldn't do that again, or something of that nature. And yeah, dude, I think that's super important.
And to tie back to what you originally asked me, which was how friends can influence and how to pick friends. If I had continued with those friends, like on a daily basis like I would if I didn't move to be closer to Lexi and not date from afar. I was at the point to where we've been friends long enough to where my standards were slowly slipping and caving to cursing more and that type of stuff. And again, no fault to them. I never specified that I wanted to be a different person in that. You know what I mean? If any of my friends are listening, like I'm not, by no means am blaming anything on them whatsoever. I love them all, and they are all great friends to this day, and I enjoy hanging out with them. But I would be, if I continued to hang out with them, I myself would be a person that I would not be happy with. And so I contribute that to just, God's plan, first of all, but to moving with Lexi, being around her and with her, it is so much easier to remember the standard I want to uphold for myself and to do that easily. I think that's where choosing your friends can really influence you. Is one, you need to figure out what kind of person you want to be. And then you surround yourselves by like-minded people. Not saying you can't have friends that aren't like-minded. Like you can definitely have friends that swear or maybe drink a little bit more, and you disagree with that. You disagree with them going out and getting drunk, and you disagree with them swearing, you disagree with them smoking weed, whatever it is. I'm not criticizing anyone for anything, but you can be friends with those people and you can be a good influence for them.
But it's different than having that super close friend. Like what I would say, like you and I, like we're pretty close, but if you did those things that you talk about, like it would be a different dynamic between us.
The important part with having those friends is how much time you spend with them. You need to make sure you spend more time with the like-minded people that put your head in the space of the person you want to be than with the people that you're trying to be a better influence on. Otherwise, you will start to fit in with the group you spend the most time with.
Yeah, because you're absolutely right. Like you definitely conform to the group that you're spending a lot of time with. Yep. And you want to conform. All right, this goes back to what I said in the beginning. You want to sharpen yourself and make sure they're sharpening you to that higher standard, like you're talking about, making sure that you're becoming a better man rather than, okay, I'm going to drink a little bit more. I'm going to cuss a little bit more. I'm going to do some things that, previously I would look at and be like, oh, no, that's not really a good thing to do. But because I'm hanging out with these people, your standards start to change.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I try, when I go back home and hang out with my friends, I always have so much fun. I mean, we'll play games and stuff, or we'll go drive around town and just have fun. But they don't hold themselves to the same standard that I do. And so I still find myself occasionally slipping and, saying something here and there, and it's not because of them. It's just because I slip back into the person that I was before when I was hanging out with them. It like takes me back. And so I don't know that I necessarily am the good influence on them that I should be, because it's hard for me to uphold that when I'm with them, because I slip right back into it. And that's on me.
So I think that's really important what you're saying, taking that like personal accountability basically and acknowledging, this is on me. This is like what I'm doing wrong. And I need to make sure, you can, again, like you said, you can hang out with those people. You just need to make sure, okay, I'm going to make sure I watch my language when everybody else is doing this, because I'm holding myself to this standard. It doesn't mean, it's wrong that they cuss, but it means we just have a different standard. And I think that's good that you're acknowledging that.
Yeah. And when I say language, I don't necessarily mean just cursing or swearing. Like coarse joking, all of these things.
Yeah, being crude, things like that. Yeah.
Exactly. Which in them of themselves, when you're not saying something to like be rude to somebody or offend something, and you're saying it in a friend group, I don't think that there's necessarily anything wrong with it per se. But my
Yeah, I
reasoning
would
for trying
agree.
to avoid that type of stuff now is for the fact of accidentally offending or hurting somebody's feelings. I can avoid that by just watching what I say. And
Yeah.
so if I can, you know, not turn somebody away, because I myself, being a Christian, am a walking example of a Christian and what so I need to be held to a higher standard as a Christian, and other Christians should hold me to that standard. And so, if
Yeah.
I'm walking, hanging out with friends, and somebody asks me a question, be like, "Oh yeah, blah blah blah," Jesus did this, 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 and then I turn around and say this really, you know, crude and rude joke that's hilarious to a friend group, and nobody's offended by it whatsoever, but the outsider that hears that is like, wow, that was really offensive and really rude. Like, what is this? And so
Hmm.
it's not necessarily bad about what you're saying, it's more the fact of the example you're trying to withhold. And that's the same
Yeah.
for like drinking in public and stuff. Like, as a
Hmm.
Christian, I'm not going to go get drunk. I believe that's wrong, to not have your mind in a, to not have your mind stable and solid, to have.
Well, yeah. I mean, the Bible says to keep a sober mind. For the devil's like a lion.
And that's not necessarily
Yeah.
speaking to just alcohol. It can be anything. It can be alcohol, which can make your
Hmm.
brain go weird, or any sort of
Getting
substances or
high.
drugs,
Yeah.
yes, that make change kind of your thought process a little bit.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Going out and having a drink at a bar, obviously I'm not going to get drunk or whatever, but
Hmm.
if somebody there that is struggling with, or doesn't know much about Christianity or whatever, and sees me drinking, they may assume, and ultimately, yes, that is kind of on them a little bit for assuming something that is untrue. But if I can avoid that situation, then I'm not going to go out, to a bar every weekend and have a drink. I may occasionally go to, like, for instance, there's a country bar where we grew up, and it's really fun to go swing dancing and have a drink.
Yeah.
But if I were to do that every weekend, it would appear as I was somebody that I was not. And I think that's really
Hmm.
important in life, is if you don't want to be associated with a certain type of people, then you want to um, separate yourself from that. So even though you're not going out and getting drunk, and you're just going to hang out at the bar, it's still not, it still doesn't look good, if that makes sense. I don't know how to
Yeah.
exactly
It
describe
makes
what I'm trying to
sense.
say.
It makes sense. I don't think I would completely agree with you on that, just because it's like you said, I mean, it's on the person's fault to just, oh, this guy goes to the bar, so he must be a drunk. Like, that's
Yes.
a bit of a stretch. But I totally get what you're saying, and I think that can apply more to some other things than just going to the bar. But I really do agree with you with this stuff's appropriate in the friend group, but then going outside and talking about it. For me, a big thing is like, I never want to be crude or cuss in front of my girlfriend. And then, especially once I get to this point in life of like having kids, I definitely don't want to do that in front of my kids. And so that's a big reason why I'm like, well, if I don't want to do it in front of them, then maybe I shouldn't do it with my friends,
Mhm.
like kind of like what you were saying. And so it's like just kind of working through that thought process. I thought you articulated it really well, which is you don't want to be going out, especially as a Christian, and just
Yeah.
like upsetting people. There's a line with like, oh, it's rude to call out, somebody if they're like living their life in sin. Well, I guess I'll be a little rude in that regard, but you don't want to be rude in the sense of, oh, I'm just going to like make fun of some person or say something that's very demeaning and going to really just like upset somebody just because, oh, well, it's funny, so I'm just going to say it out in public.
Going off of
Good.
of what you just said, we as Christians are called to accept people, and a lot of people will take that far one way and just accept everyone and not be on them about something. And some people
Yeah.
will be too far and not accept them because like you're a sinner, blah, blah, blah. We're all sinners and every person has their own
Yeah.
struggle. And so you accept that person and you bring them in. And then once they are understand, what Jesus has done for them and what they need to do, then they can hit the part of, well, look, here's what you're doing. This is sinful and you need to work on repenting and do this so that you can be baptized and so that you can become saved. And so then that's when you kind of have the talk with them. Hey, this is what you're doing. This is what you're doing wrong, when they're ready to hear it, or when they're wanting to get more serious in their faith. Because we are called to call brothers and sisters out, and not, if they're not a brother and a sister, it's not our job to call them out. It's our job to bring them in and be friends with them and to guide them towards Jesus, to where we can call them out as a wanting to be a brother or a sister in Christ. If that
Yeah,
makes sense.
absolutely. And yeah, it does make sense. And I think a lot of people get really tripped up because there's layers. Going back to friendship, like there's layers to it. There comes a point, like you be friends with people who are living a different lifestyle. I mean, you look at Jesus; he was friendly. To a degree, maybe was friends with some of these people, but that doesn't mean he made them a friend like the 12 disciples were his friends.
Yeah,
It doesn't mean he took them and put them in like his inner close circle of people who he really trusted and befriended. And it's important to remember that. It's important to remember, okay, I can be friends with a lot of different people, a lot of people who, like we were saying earlier, don't agree with me, don't live the same lifestyle as me. But there comes a point in a friendship where, okay, now I have to be exclusive. And now I'm not going to let these people who, live very different from me, have a very different standard. I'm not like going to let those people really close into my life. And I just think a lot of people forget about that, and then you have issues. I mean, same issues to a degree as people who are very quick and rush a relationship, and then they find out, well, shoot, that's somebody I shouldn't have dated.
Yeah,
Happens a lot of the time in friendships as well. So okay, yeah. So kind of one more question to wrap this up with is like, what are you doing to be like a good friend? Like, what are some ways that you are going about your life and like being a good friend towards like your friends? I guess yeah, that's the way I would word it.
Well, trying to be a good influence, not trying to be better than my friends. By no means do I think I'm better or want to be better than my friends, but simply trying to hold myself to a standard and show to be a Christian person, but to hopefully kind of influence friends to want to do the same, to want to uphold themselves to a standard.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to uphold myself to a standard to be better than them. I want to make that very clear. But I want to do it to better myself in the hopes that they will see that and want to do the same for themselves. I think that's one way. Another way is just to be there for your friends and to check in on friends. I will occasionally go through my phone, Snapchat or contacts, and see friends that are probably not really friends anymore because, we haven't talked in forever, and just be like, hey, what's up? It's been forever. How's life going? Just like, what's up with life? What's new? And just check in with them and have a short little conversation, whether it be text or a phone call or whatever it is.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that's an important thing to keep up with, even the old friends that you don't necessarily interact with.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. I think that is really important, and that's something I try to do. Is even like I'll see a meme on Instagram, and I'll send it to some friend I haven't talked to in a while, just like, oh hey, this reminded me of you. I think what you said, that's really good. Is like, you want to hold yourself, you're holding yourself to a higher standard. You're wanting to be a good influence on your friends, but it's not preachy. It's not like, oh,
Mm-mm.
look at me,
Exactly.
I'm so perfect, I'm doing everything so right. Because for me, that's just a massive turnoff. I'm like, no,
Absolutely.
you're not, dude. Like you're not any more or less of a sinner than me. Like,
Absolutely.
get off of your high horse. But yeah, you want to be that good influence. So then, if they ask you something like, oh, why do you do this? You can explain to them, oh, well, I'm a Christian, or you can show them this is how you live a godly life. This is what a godly man should do. Do we stumble? Yeah, absolutely. But this is what
Yeah.
we should be doing. And then they see that, they're like, oh, like maybe I should do that. And you can help them, bring them closer to Christ if they're not. But also, then if you're living, to that high standard, and you have a friend and they stumble, well, then you're, like you said, with being close as well, like you're right there. You're like, oh, you're good, bro. Like,
Mhm.
I stumble too. You're good. Um, like when my friends do that, I mean, I'm very grateful, very blessed when they do that. But you also, in a way, like you want to be that blessing towards your friends as well.
Yeah. And to touch on something slightly off topic, but Christians in general get such a bad rep nowadays because so many Christians are Christians on Sunday morning when they're at church. And
Yeah,
they forget
that's a
about
whole nother topic right there.
absolutely.
Next
And,
episode about to go crazy.
and we should definitely do it for sure. That would be great.
Yeah, that's
But I
good.
just kind of as a thought, as we talk about, being the better example or being examples for the people around us, because like if all of your friends are trying to be good examples, then you guys are going to be some great friends because you're all are on top of it and are,
Yeah.
cautious of upsetting your friend or, I mean, you can be too far, you can be too cautious, but I think it's very important to remember, like if you want to give yourself a way of how to know whether you should do something or should not to do something, is this something you would say? Is this something you would wear? Is this something you would do at church?
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
that's something to think about. I think like you shouldn't do it to like an extreme, because I couldn't exactly point to something, but yeah, I think you're right. Is like if you want to be comfortable doing it, then saying this to your friend
Yeah.
in church, or like publicly in church, you should say to them. But I think we have a good topic for next week.
Yeah, I do
that we'll touch on. I think
really cool.
that'll be really good. So yeah, thanks guys. A little bit of a shorter episode compared to the last one, but hey, it's all right.
Hey, we are not set to a time, we are here to have a conversation, share our perspective. And
the perspective ended. Like there was some trees in the way or something. So I couldn't see quite as far.
Ended. Yeah. Well, no, I think it's a very simple.
It is, yeah.
Very simple topic. I mean, we can get straight to the point. There's not a whole lot of deviations and a whole lot of opinion.
Yeah, that's fair. And yeah, it's just sometimes it's hard to implement, which is
sometimes the perspective is really wide and sometimes the perspective is narrow
and very tricky.
Yes, a lot of obstacles. Yes, for sure. So
also, yeah, thanks guys for giving it a listen. If you have something that you wish we kind of would expand it on, or like a story from a friendship, I mean, we would love to read those. One of these episodes we'll react to some comments or read them on episode. I think that'll be something fun for us to do. So
if you guys want to leave us a message or contact us, send us any sort of info, and the description of all of our podcasting stuff, our email will be there, and you can contact us on our email, or you can go to our YouTube and leave us a comment